I think also many of these ideas have morphed into a new religion for the ruling class, as John McWhorter and others have pointed out. There is a religious quality to this ideological worldview of radical progressivism that for its true believers, it really does give them a sense of meaning and purpose, even if it's not empirically valid. And you can see that, for example, in the extent to which organizations embrace things like anti-racism training or teaching in white privilege. Many of the measures that have been used in those training sessions have been shown to be empirically flawed and have been shown to be worthless. But yet we continue to spend millions, if not billions, in pushing a lot of this stuff. I mean, if you read the literature on diversity training in the social sciences, is pretty clear in saying it either has no effect at all, or it can make people even more prejudiced towards other groups. There was a recent comprehensive review in the annual review of psychology, a prominent prestigious journal, which basically concluded by saying it wasn't sure that the amount of money we're spending on all of this stuff was justifiable because of the lack of effect it was having. But yeah, we don't seem to be able to talk about any of that. And I noticed this most visibly in Britain when we had a report that was published, a government report on inequalities and social mobility in Britain, which concluded that the main cause of disparities between different groups was not institutional racism, but was to do with things like entrenched economic deprivation, family breakdown, differences in cultural values. And that report, led by a man called Tony Sewell, who was himself black, was widely criticized and dismissed by the ruling class as being illegitimate, unacceptable, because he had challenged the central claim among the new elite, which is that all Western societies are institutionally racist and all disparities among groups are therefore based around prejudice and discrimination, when in fact the reality, as I think we know quite clearly from the evidence, is it's a lot more complicated than that. It's a multivariate explanation, and that things like the very high rates of family breakdown, particularly in the Black British Caribbean community, where 63% of children are in single parent households, those things really matter. But we can't seem to have a mature conversation about the role of those factors in these inequalities. So what we're left with is a stifling, boring, unproductive, very narrow orthodoxy that reflects the view of this new elite, but doesn't take us very far in actually dealing with society's problems.